Good morning. It is 6:33 and we are heading out to the garden. I've got my cup of coffee. I haven't been out in the garden in a week. We were at a family camping trip and we got back 2 nights ago, but we got back really late at night. And yesterday I spent all day having to catch up on work, and I wanted to go into the garden for the first time with you and see how it's changed in over a week. Now, this is something Josh surprised me with yesterday, is a new watering system, and I'm so excited about that. It's one of those automatic retractable ones. I saw one in the early spring when we went to Costco together, and he surprised me with that, and I'm really excited. That is going to be used mainly to water my patio green stalks, which are still thriving and looking fantastic. This one, actually today, I'm going to pull out these nasturtiums and I'm going to replant something else in it. And I mean, just look at this one. So pretty. And this one over here. I actually went out into the garden yesterday for about 1 minute. I looked at 2 beds and then I came back up and I realized that I want to go out there with you. These are the other 2 that are looking fantastic. This is the petunia green stalk that you and I started together. All of these flowers back in February, and the strawberries, because we were gone for a week, yesterday we were able to harvest about 10 strawberries off that green stalk. One thing that's happened since last time I was out here with you is that all these petunias that we had started together have started to bloom and explode, and also the dahlias are starting to bloom. This one is going to have a deep burgundy bloom. Probably in about a day they'll be open. And then this one hasn't opened yet. You can hear the birds. It's early this morning. And then this one is the first one on the patio to open. So I'm really excited for my new waterer for making watering my green stalks and my hanging baskets so much easier. Oh, it feels so good. I'm so excited to be out here with you. I wanted to come out here with you because there's so much change. I could just see from the minute or 2 I was out here, and I wanted to see all the change with you. I'm actually gonna be doing a big harvest this afternoon. Oh my goodness. I didn't really let myself take it all in yesterday because I wanted to get the full experience with how much things have changed. I normally come out here every single day, and so you don't see a lot of change when you're out here every single day, but when you aren't out here for almost a week, things start to look a lot different. We're gonna start at this end of the garden today, and you can already see just how things have exploded, and I'm just so happy about it. So the one thing I did notice yesterday when I was out here is I thought this was a pumpkin plant that I planted. I set my coffee down and I'll probably forget about it, but we'll finish it. And I realized that this is actually a white zucchini plant, and I've got a baby zucchini on there, so that's pretty exciting. I haven't harvested any zucchini yet this year, and I've got a ton, well, I wouldn't say a ton, but I've got 3 jalapenos on this plant, and I'm starting to see lots of peppers on these jalapeno plants, and the Sweet William was not blooming last time we were in the garden together, and look at that. Also, we didn't have any buds on the straw flower. This is my favorite straw flower color. It's a deep burgundy, and that with the Sweet William is gonna make one beautiful bouquet. Also, look at these black beans. They are finally starting to take off. The other peppers are starting to put lots of flowers on. I did go ahead, I had nasturtiums in here. That's one thing that I did. Oh, and look at this volunteer tomato plant. This was probably about this big last time we were in the garden together. And I took those nasturtium plants out because they were kind of just taking over this bed. There is a weed there. Set that there and I'll toss it. And then I also noticed this is not good. I'm gonna get rid of this. Those are seed pods on the end of that. So we went on a family camping trip reunion, and that's what I just got back from. And before we left, I did quite a bit of maintenance, and look at this. This is the echinacea changes since last time we were out here. So I'm gonna show you all the things that I did out here to kind of change a couple things up since last time we were out here. So at the end of this bed, we have more Sweet William. And it looks like our Rebecca is about to bloom probably in a day or 2. And then this is a peach color, I believe, straw flower. So from this bed, we're gonna go ahead and head to this one because we were just looking at that. And this right here, my friend, is sweet peas. This is the first time I've ever grown these. And I think I planted them a little bit late. They took a while to get started. They are supposed to get 8 feet tall, but we have now hit the heat of summer. Today it's supposed to be 91 degrees. And so I don't know how long these are gonna keep blooming for, but one thing I can tell you is I will absolutely grow them in my garden again next year. And the scent on these blooms is intoxicating. It smells like a very, very high quality floral perfume, but not like a sickening smell, like just high quality, beautiful floral. And I couldn't figure out what was smelling so good when I was in my garden, and it is this sweet pea that is growing here. And then look at this. This was my dream when it came to this garden, was to have an entire bed of zinnias. Last time we were out here together, we had 2 buds. It's been almost 3 weeks since we were out here together, and we now have an entire bed full of zinnia. I still have a couple places where the zinnias are pretty small, but now that these plants have filled out, you hardly see any of the soil. This variety right here is called Golden Hour, and it just has these beautiful, light, peachy, and look at this one. This one has like purple around the edges of the petals, and it's just a really soft and beautiful golden color, hence the name. And then this variety in the middle here, look at how unique the coloring on these buds are. This one right here is called Unicorn Mix, and there's just a lot of big varietal differences between these different colors. And look at this one. I mean, this is like pink with lime green around the edges of these petals. This is the most soft, beautiful pink color. This one's orange, and then look at the purple on the inside. And then we have some that have a more deep pinky color. And then this one doesn't have a center at all. And then this variety over here is absolutely stunning as well. This variety is called Alpine Glow. I don't have quite as many of these in bloom yet because these actually took that freeze that we got a little bit harder. And these are a soft purple color. I've never seen a zinnia this color. This one I think is still Unicorn Mix, but look at the purple on the inside. There's a little bug on there with the yellow kind of tips on the petals. So beautiful. I can see 1, 2, I saw another one, 3, 4 bumblebees sleeping on these zinnias. When we were out here last time and we saw a sleeping bumblebee, one of you mentioned that it might be passing away. Bumblebees will actually sleep on flowers. And so these bumblebees, for at least this variety, I know will come into the garden and find a safe place to sleep. And it's pretty cool that they have found this beautiful zinnia patch as a safe place to sleep. So I could not be happier with how this zinnia bed has turned out. And then we did plant cilantro together down here, and it has been in the 90s and high 80s for the past 2 weeks. And this cilantro looks fantastic because it's being shaded out by these zinnias. And then I just noticed this. This is hilarious. This is a volunteer tomato plant. I find it so funny anytime I find a volunteer growing in this kind of gravel area, because I spend so much time trying to cultivate the perfect environment for a plant to grow, and then yet it'll grow in seemingly the worst environment possible. And that just proves to me anytime I see that plants want to grow. So it's always encouraging to me when I see that. So this is a success. I am having a dinner party. My sister is in town, and we have some other relatives that are in town from out of town, and I'm gonna be harvesting a ton of these zinnias for the tablescape, and I'm really excited about that. So over here, we have our sugar snap peas, and these are starting to yellow a little bit because we were having heat. These are a cold loving crop. I'm gonna come out here and harvest a ton of them today, and I'm actually gonna try freeze drying some of them. I want to see if I can make those veggie straws that you can get at the store using my sugar snap peas and kind of getting that texture. And I'm just going to give it a try. I'm not going to do all of them, but I'm going to give it a try. Over here, oh my goodness, we have a jungle of a pumpkin patch here. And I just saw a bumblebee go into this flower, and look at all the pollen on that bumblebee. Some of the pumpkins, it looks like, did not get pollinated, which is fine. What I like to do is actually hand pollinate, and I can see that some pumpkins have already been pollinated. Look at this. This is incredibly overgrown, and I love it. And I can see a honeybee actually going right into this flower here. Today, what I'm going to do is actually come out here and do some hand pollinating, because I can see some different flowers, male flowers and female flowers, that are ready for hand pollinating. I did that last year and it really helped with my harvest on pumpkins. But there is a lot of bee activity. I can see 3 bees currently right now buzzing around, which is pretty awesome. And then friend, look at this. We have got a pumpkin growing up this trellis, and it actually looks like this one needs a little bit of help. It has grown about 3 feet since last time I was out here. So look at that. We've got a pumpkin trellising up this trellis, so we just might get this arch to fill out, and I can already see that we have a pumpkin that was properly pollinated growing on here. So this is going to be fun to watch grow. So let me show you a male flower. And let's see if I can find something to hand pollinate. So right here, this is a female flower because it has the baby pumpkin on it. This is a female flower that has a baby pumpkin on it, and that looks like it was pollinated. And this right here is a male flower because there is no baby pumpkin on it. And what bees will do is they will go get pollen from the male flower, and hopefully they will then go get pollen from the female flower, and they will mix the two together and create a baby pumpkin. Bees will absolutely do this, or pollinators I should say will do this for you. But what I like to do is help my plants along a little bit and help kind of guarantee pollination. So I will take my male flower and I will go ahead and hand pollinate my female flower with it. If this does not happen, then what happens is the female flower doesn't get pollinated and then it dies. So I'll show you what that looks like because I can see a couple of those. So what I usually do is take 1 to 2 flowers and I pollinate it with 2. And you want to make sure you kind of fully pollinate it so you get it all the way around. And then I usually just leave that there. So if bees want to hang out here, they're going to help me pollinate it as well. Hand pollinating is something I just started doing last year, and it really helped my pumpkin harvest. And I need it to come through here. I can see and start detangling some of these plants, which I'll do this afternoon. But that looks like a healthy pollinated pumpkin. These two look like healthy pollinated pumpkins. And I saw one that didn't look like, okay, right here, this is a perfect example. This is a pumpkin that was not pollinated. So what they end up doing if they don't get pollinated is they just kind of shrivel up. And I can just toss that. While we're out here kind of going through the garden, I'm assessing what needs to be done. And what needs to be done is I need to come through and detangle this, and I will do that, and I will enjoy doing that. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you this real quick because we kind of passed over this. This is our onions and carrots right below the peas, and they are looking fantastic. So they are starting to bulb up nicely. The carrots are growing. Oh my goodness, look at that. That is a store-bought onion size, which is fantastic. I am used to growing golf ball size onions. So that's great. So these are looking great. That means I can actually harvest those as young onions and cook with them just like I would a regular onion. And then here is our first pumpkin of any size. This is one I hand pollinated right before I went out of town with you all on Instagram, and now it is the size of a cantaloupe. And here's another example of a pumpkin that did not get pollinated. They just kind of fall off the vine from this beautiful bed. We're gonna, oh, I see some baby female flowers here on this one. So I'm just gonna, well, I'll just leave it like that. When it gets a little taller, I can trellis it up. I did put pumpkins here, but they got shaded out by this wheat. And friend, look at this. When I was out here last time, there was no wheat on these plants, and they have officially put on wheat berries, or the start of them, I should say. I have not done any more research other than what I need to do to actually plant them and get them to grow. So I'm excited. I need to now go inside and do research on the proper drying and harvesting and cleaning of this wheat. I know it needs to grow and mature, but friend, we have wheat that we're gonna be able to harvest. That is incredible. Look at that. Oh my goodness, that is so incredible. It's interesting to me how short they are. This is a organic variety of wheat that I planted. It was one that I had just bought to actually cook with and grind at home. And I knew that they have tried to breed wheat over the years to be shorter and stockier. And I don't know if I've ever seen wheat growing this up close before. And how cool that it is in my own garden. So from there, we're gonna go to our Petite Florette dahlia bed, and my zucchinis, yay, are finally starting to put on baby zucchini. So maybe in a day or two, I'll harvest my first zucchini. We've got 2 plants here, and it looks like I have some volunteer volunteer chamomile. I had chamomile in this bed last year. Chamomile is the flower that makes a delicious tea. And then see, this is an example too of a zucchini that didn't pollinate, but it looks like those 2 got pollinated well. If you don't have a male flower and a female flower kind of open at the same time, it can be hard for pollinators to pollinate plants. And that's why I like hand pollinating, because if one of the flowers is still closed a little bit, I can just open it up and hand pollinate. So a combination of letting the native pollinators pollinate and me doing it last year seemed to really help in my yield. So here, last time we were in this bed, we didn't have any of our Petite Florette dahlias open. And today, this one looks like it's got some bug damage in it. We've got quite a few of our Petite Florette dahlias blooming. They are a lot smaller. And then the calendula has started to bloom. And we've got 2 more zucchini plants over here. And that zucchini looks like it is almost ready. I'm gonna give it 1 more day and I'm gonna harvest our first zucchini. I have not purchased any zucchini from the grocery store, I don't think, but 1 or 2 times since last summer. I love zucchini, but last year I had, I think 12 zucchini plants in this bed, or maybe 10. And then I had maybe 4 other zucchini plants planted throughout this garden. So I got zucchinied out. But I am very excited for that zucchini because I have not eaten that much zucchini since last summer. So I'm really looking forward to that. This is the cilantro right here, these little white flowers that we planted many, many months ago now at this point, and I've harvested a ton of cilantro off this plant. I think I've harvested almost, I'm gonna say 1.5 gallons of cilantro that I have freeze dried and put up, plus whatever I have put in my cooking. I've used it a lot in my cooking. So I'm probably gonna go ahead and harvest that and just clean that bed up today. I could let this go to seed. Cilantro seed actually is this spice coriander, and I thought I saw right here. Here's a good example of it starting to go from the flower to the seed. Here's a better example right here. but I have a lot of coriander seed. I have a whole bag full. And so I think I want to just clean this bed up, and I'll give that green lusciousness to the chickens, and they'll really enjoy that. And that'll give a little bit more room for the dahlias to have and breathe, and kind of will let the dahlias shine in that bed. So that's another thing I'm going to do today. So from this bed, we're going to come up to this bed. This is one of my Roma tomato beds, and it looks like I have some of our first fruits on here. Now, this is an example of a pollinated tomato. And then this would be an example of a flower that didn't get pollinated. So the same thing can happen with tomatoes. If they don't get pollinated, the flowers will just drop off. And then here in front, I planted another succession of cilantro, and that's looking pretty good. I also planted some herbs and lettuce. So I have lettuce here that is just starting to pop up. I have lettuce that was supposed to be there. I've got basil. Oh, this lettuce looks fantastic. And I can see in here, we have quite a few more Roma tomato plants. So that's looking very good. I'm really excited about that. But one thing I can see is that we're starting to get some not great coloring on a couple of these plants. So today what I'm going to do is clean up a lot of these bottom leaves and let this tomato breathe a little bit more. And hopefully that will kind of stop that in its tracks before it causes any problems with the actual tomatoes. So over here, I have not really talked to you about this before. So this is where I had sweet peas. They weren't doing very good, and I forgot that I planted a ton of pinto pole beans right here, and they are looking fantastic. My goal was to get this trellis completely covered with some sort of plant, and obviously these sweet peas did not do that, because I think once these are done blooming, they're probably going to peter out. So I remember now, and I had forgotten about this, that I had some extra pinto bean seeds, and they're actually not pinto beans. They are dragon tongue beans that once dried are like a pinto bean. And I'm going to see if I can get that to grow up this trellis. I have plans for these trellises for next year to see if I can get them covered in something beautiful. Here is the other side of this Roma tomato bed, and it's looking great. I don't have cages for these two, and what I might do is do an experiment and just not put tomato cages and just see how they do. These are a bush variety of tomato, and maybe they don't need a cage. I don't know. We're gonna see. Over here, we finally have our butterfly snapdragons blooming, and they look so pretty. These were not blooming last time we were out here. And it looks like I need to come out here and actually clean some of these plants out. Some of these are about to go to seed because I wasn't out here for a week. So the ones that have these little pods at the end, these are going to seed. I'm going to come through today and cut back quite a few of them, and then they will continue to grow if I do that. What I did right before I left for out of town for a week is I actually took the back row of snapdragons, and they've even filled it in since the last week, and I removed those to give my tomatoes more room. You can see on this side a little bit better. There's a little bit more room for these tomato plants since I removed an entire row of snapdragons from the front. Oh, look, we're starting to get baby tomatoes. We usually don't start harvesting slicing tomatoes until mid-August. Here you can see a little bit better too, where there's just a little bit more room for these tomato plants. So this is another maintenance thing I'm going to do, is kind of clean up these snapdragons. So from there, we're going to head to this bed, and our black bean pole beans are starting to finally take off and fill out this trellis. Last time we were out here together, they were about half the size. And so that's really encouraging. And I actually see flowers on here. So these are eventually going to turn into like a green bean. They're going to look like a green bean, and then they will dry on the vine, and we will harvest, hopefully, black beans. And then on the inside here, this is what the status looks like. This is, I believe, the apricot variety. I have about 3 different varieties of status. And then in here, it looks like the sweet potatoes are starting to put on quite a bit more growth. I think they only had about 3 leaves last time we were out here. All of my radishes have gone to seed because it's been so hot. And you can actually harvest the seed pods and eat them. They are delicious. But my chickens love radish greens and flowers. So I'm probably gonna come out here today and pull all these and give these to the chickens. My one cauliflower has gone to seed, and I probably will pull this and give this to the chickens as well because they love brassica leaves. It's one of their favorites. The dill is looking fantastic. This is my green bean patch, and oh my goodness, look at that. I have struggled with slugs in this bed. I don't want to touch it with my hands, but I'm going to pick you off with a leaf. And these plants are actually looking pretty good, and they're going to look even better with this little guy out of there. This is what slugs have been doing to my green beans in this bed. But we've got flowers now, and so these flowers are hopefully going to turn into, right here, you can see, this is my first baby green bean. I'm really looking forward to this. Green beans are one of my favorite things to come out of the garden, and it won't be long and we'll be able to harvest some of those. I really need to get Sluggo. All of you mentioned that that is the best product to prevent slugs. I just haven't gone to the store or ordered it yet, but that is on my list of things to do. But it looks like I'm gonna be able to get a good harvest off this. And I have plans to actually plant a lot more green beans this afternoon. We've got some carrots in here. Here's my cabbage. I'm gonna harvest this cabbage today. It looks like there's a little bit of bug damage, but we can just take the outer leaves off, and I'm gonna harvest that, and we're gonna enjoy that cabbage. Now here, this is what white status looks like. This is absolutely beautiful, and once it's in a bouquet, it adds just a really nice pop of kind of green and color, and I'm gonna use this in some dried bouquets this fall. From my hodgepodge bed, we're gonna come down here, and these potatoes are looking fantastic. I'm actually gonna harvest some of these potatoes for the dinner party that I'm gonna have this week. I'm gonna harvest some of these guys, and we are gonna make a potato dish with these. Now, I'm a little worried because these potatoes, I only saw one plant that flowered. Typically what they say is when the potato plant is flowering, that's when they're putting on tubers and actually growing their tubers. But, you know, I did not see too many flowers on these potato plants. So we're gonna dig a couple of these up. And if I don't get any from these plants, then I will go to the farmer's market and get some potatoes. But these potato plants look still really healthy. And well, that's what happens. So potato plants, you know, they're ready to harvest the potatoes when the plants die. So this, I'm not worried that the plants are dying. I'm just concerned that the potato plants never flowered, if that makes sense. So I don't know. And then what I see in here, which I didn't see in here when I was in here last time, is there is a volunteer tomato plant. And this plant probably won't, well, I don't know, maybe I'll leave it because I'm only gonna harvest a few potatoes as young potatoes, and I'll leave the rest of the potatoes for when my dad comes and harvests potatoes with me, because that's his favorite thing to do. Different varieties of potatoes, and I have 3 varieties of potatoes. This one right here that's dying back is one variety. I don't remember what it is. I'd have to go back and watch what we did. And then this variety is another variety. I think the middle is russet. And then this is, I believe this one's Yukon Gold, and that one was a new variety to me. And each variety of potato has a different length of growing time it needs. And so my thought is maybe that one just doesn't need quite as long to grow as these other 2 varieties. And then here we've got our beautiful pots that I'm loving. And then this bed has a lot of change since last time we were in it. One, the black beans and pinto beans are absolutely loving this bed. But one thing I didn't realize is that they need a much bigger trellis, so they're starting to get a little tangled at the top, so they might not produce very well at the top, but hopefully down below we'll get some harvestable goodness of these plants. And then in the front here, we have some peppers, and what I did in this bed is I changed it quite a bit. So right before we went out of town, I pulled up all of the nasturtiums. I had planted nasturtiums all along this bed, and they were absolutely stunning. They were full of flowers, but they were growing up and out and kind of shading out these pepper plants. And I got to enjoy the nasturtium blooms for about 2 weeks, and then I came to the conclusion that I want my pepper plants to do well, and so I went ahead and I took up those nasturtiums and I gave the nasturtium plants to the chickens. I left this one nasturtium plant here on the corner so that, because it wasn't really bothering this pepper plant, but I really wanted to give these peppers a good fighting chance, and they were just being overtaken by the nasturtiums. So I pulled them out, I got to enjoy them, and now I'm going to get to enjoy, hopefully, some delicious peppers. And I can actually see lots of fruit coming on to these plants, and I think that that was a good move. I believe these ones here are Anaheims. Yep, that's my really fancy marker right there. Those are Anaheim peppers. This is a yellow wonder, I don't remember. This is the one variety of bell pepper I planted. I've got other bell peppers other places. We've got some lettuce that I've harvested off a ton, couple other lettuce plants in here. Shishito peppers, which we've been harvesting shishito peppers every week or so. I get a few of them. And then we just have some other varieties of peppers in here. And these pepper plants are really happy that I removed the nasturtiums. And then we've got carrots in here, and we're just gonna let this continue to grow out. Usually I don't start harvesting a really big pepper harvest until when I'm harvesting the tomatoes. So usually like mid-August or so. So that'll be a bit before. So one thing I'm gonna do this afternoon, and maybe I'll harvest these potatoes. These are potatoes that were a volunteer. This was a potato bed last year, but I am gonna harvest all of our garlic harvest this year. So one thing I did before we left for out of town is I actually took off my irrigation system off this bed, but it was kind of messing with the gravel. So I'm gonna have to figure out a different solution for next year. So I ended up having to put the irrigation system back on my garlic. And so the soil is probably not quite as dry as I would like, but we will go ahead and dry this garlic really well. So you know you want to harvest garlic when at least 3 of the leaves have died. I think right now I am at 4. So this is going to be a good day to harvest this garlic. And maybe instead of harvesting the potatoes up there, I'll let those continue to die back, and I will harvest these potatoes and use these for the party. So I'm gonna have a garlic themed party. My sister is out of town. I have some aunts and uncles that are in from out of town from all over the country, and I'm gonna have them over for dinner. We are going to have a garlic themed dinner party, and I'm gonna try to harvest as much from the garden as possible to feed them. So that is that entire row. So let's come over here. I cannot believe the health of these black bean plants. These are a bush bean variety of black beans that I have been growing since 2019. And these plants are probably 2 feet tall, which is way taller than I'm used to seeing them. And I can see that they are putting on tons of flowers, and hopefully each one of these flowers, just like right here, is gonna turn into a green bean pod, which will produce black bean seeds. And we will hopefully get a fantastic black bean harvest. The cosmos that I put at the end here are going to be blooming here soon. And it looks like these volunteer sunflowers that I transplanted are starting to bloom. I did not know what these sunflowers were going to look like because I did not plant these seeds, so I didn't know what they were going to look like. And it looks like that is a yellow sunflower. Last year I had a deep burgundy sunflower in here, and then I had some other yellow and orange sunflowers, and so it's kind of fun to see what's going to happen. I don't know if the rest of them are going to be that same color or not, but it won't be long before this whole back row is going to be in bloom. So over here, I wonder if I have any tomatoes that are ready to harvest. It looks like it. So I planted a couple cherry tomatoes in here, and it looks like we are just starting to get some ripe ones. I've harvested 4 cherry tomatoes out of this garden this year, and it looks like I've got a couple more I can harvest today. I'm hoping I can get these tomatoes to grow up this trellis. And then over here, well, actually, let's go to this bed here. So this bed of dahlias has green beans in it, and these green bean plants are looking So much better than those green bean plants in that other bed. They were planted actually about a week before, and you can just see how much healthier these plants look. We've got a lot of flowers and a bunch of baby green beans, so in probably a week, we will be in green bean harvest. Here are some dahlias that are blooming. I cannot remember the variety of dahlia that's in this bed. I will put the name right up here. Last time we were out here, they were just starting to open, and now the entire bed is just full of blooms. There are all different beautiful colors in here. Some of them have actually already started to die back, so I'm probably gonna come out here and kind of cut some back. But I am just happy with how this is looking. It is full of blooms, just like I was hoping. And it's still just at the beginning stages. You can see all of these buds on here, and it's just gonna fill out even more in not too long. And then on this end of this bed, we have even more green beans. These are the variety Jade green beans, and they're looking fantastic. On the edge of the dahlia bed, we planted cilantro, and you can see some of them have started to flower, but it hasn't flowered as much as the one on the other bed because these have been shaded out by these dahlias. I'll probably come through here and pull all these as well and just give these to the chickens because I'm thinking that this might be bitter. The reason once they go to seed, you don't really want to eat it is if you're someone who likes cilantro and it's gone to seed, it's going to taste extremely bitter. That still tastes really sweet. Maybe what I'll do is come through and find where it is started to flower. Oops, that one I pulled, and just pull that mother plant out like this and leave the rest. So like this one is about to flower, so this plant is going to be bitter, and just pull that one out, and so on and so forth. From that dahlia bed, we have another Roma bed, and this Roma bed is about at the same stage as the other Roma bed. They're putting on lots of blossoms, and I'm just starting to see little baby tomato plants come in, but we do have some straw flowers that are starting to bloom and the status that is starting to bloom in here. And I can see I also need to come through here and kind of clean up these plants and prune back some of the leaves just to give a little more airflow. Here are more cherry tomatoes on this trellis, and I actually have quite a few that are ready to harvest on this plant. And I need to come through and kind of help this plant grow up this trellis a little bit by kind of tucking it. Oop, just broke the top off that. Didn't mean to do that. I'll let that compost right there. But same plan here is I would like these tomatoes to grow up, and we've already got them up about 3 feet, so that's great. From my Roma bed, we have this overgrown and beautiful snapdragon bed. I need to do the same thing in this bed where I need to come through and clean up the ones that are about to go to seed so that the plant will continue to put on more snapdragons. But look at this bed. I did the same thing with this bed with these tomatoes. I went ahead and I pulled an entire row of snapdragons to give more room for these tomato plants, and they seem to be happy about that. I pruned these right before we left, but it looks like I could thin them out just a little bit more. I got a little worried that these snapdragons got a little too close to these tomatoes because they were touching the plants, and I could probably come through here and actually pull one more row of snapdragons to give them a little bit more room. I don't know if I'm going to do that, I'll see or not, but these tomato plants seem to be happy that I did that. So now coming from this bed, one thing I wish I had done was plant this variety on one of my arch trellises, because then it would have fully filled out the arch trellis. So if I like these scarlet runner beans, I will plant them next year on one of the arch trellises. I will also probably plant the pinto beans that are pole beans on the arch trellis and the black beans because those get so tall. Now my sweet peas were supposed to get 9 feet tall or 8 feet tall, but we are at about 3 feet tall max. So here is the other pepper bed. So I did do some things in here since last time we were in here. I had a bunch of radishes in here. We harvested those and ate those. I also had some sweet William in here and a bunch of nasturtiums on this outside edge. And The Sweet William and the nasturtiums were just overcrowding this bed and kind of crowding out my pepper plants. So what I did is I harvested the radishes. We enjoyed those. I just pulled the Sweet William and I threw them here to compost in place. And then the nasturtiums I went ahead and gave to the chickens. And then this last time we were in here was just a teeny tiny tomatillo plant. And now it is 4 times the size because it has some more room to grow. I might just leave this here. Last time I was in here, I said maybe I should pull it. I didn't pull it, and there we are. Oh my goodness. Look at all these peppers. There were 0 peppers in here when I left. And we've got a ton of peppers, and we have a ton of banana peppers. I am definitely going to be harvesting some of these banana peppers today. Look at that. These are a sweet banana pepper. And then we've got a pumpkin plant here that's starting to take off. And that is awesome. And while I was looking at these banana peppers, I actually see the first scarlet runner bean pod. Now, one thing I'm noticing that some of these pods, I would think that because there's flowers in all these spots, there should be bean pods along this whole thing. But I don't know why that the flowers dropped. I don't know if these need to be pollinated or if they're self-pollinating. I don't know much about these. I just got the seed because they were pretty and I put them in the ground. So if you guys have any suggestions on why some of these don't have bean pods, I'm all ears. But that's really exciting to me. So from this bed, we have our cut flower bed here. I have never grown a double petaled Cosmo before. Last year was the first year I grew Cosmos, and I grew this variety, which was just a white single petal one. And I think they're one of the most romantic flowers. They look beautiful in a bouquet. And I thought I would experiment with some other varieties this year, and that is absolutely beautiful. Coming from that cut flower bed, we have this bed here, and this sage is just completely taken over. This part of the sage has already flowered and is kind of done flowering. We've got new flowers that are popping up. I'm going to move this for next year. But back here we have more sugar snap peas. And I didn't think I was going to plant this variety next year because it didn't get very tall compared to the other variety. You can see this is the same size trellis as the other one. The other sweet peas are about this tall. These plants never got past probably 2.5 feet. This variety is called Lincoln, and the other variety is just Sugar Snap. But these ones actually taste better. They are sweeter, they are delicious. So I might plant them next year just because they taste really good. And today, I'm gonna come through and harvest all of them, and I will probably end up planting something else on this trellis next. Now, some of them have started to die back, and I've tasted about 6 of them since we've been out here, and they are absolutely delicious. But if I keep these on the vine any longer, they're gonna start to get bitter because they're actually going to go from like a nice sweet pea to turning into seed that is going to want to produce for the next year. I don't want that. I want to eat these, so I'm gonna harvest all these and probably plant something else here. The celeriac looks fantastic. These onions look great. I have 3 different varieties or 4 different varieties of onions in my garden, and every single year, the Walla Wallas do the best. Look at how all of these just look so beautiful. So I don't know, maybe I'll only grow Walla Wallas next year because they just do so much better than any other variety I've ever grown, and they look great. The only problem with Walla Walla onions is they are not a storage variety. I almost just stepped on my pumpkin plant. And so you can only keep them once you harvest them for about a month or 2, and then you need to either chop them and freeze them or dehydrate them and turn them into powder or something. But I would be okay with that if I got a bigger harvest because of the variety. So over here, we have our other pumpkin bed, and this one took a little bit longer to kind of fill out. I see about 4 honeybees over here, and I see a baby pumpkin. Oh, see, like this one didn't get pollinated. So today, I'm just gonna take that off. I'll spend some time hand pollinating what I can, and since I'm gonna be home for the foreseeable future, anytime I can hand pollinate and help these plants out, I will do that. This bed did take a little bit longer to fill out, and I think I figured out why it took a little bit longer to fill out. Last fall, I put compost down in each one of these beds, and I amended the bed at the end of the growing season. And the bed over there that is exploded, I put the compost in right before I planted the seed. So I think what happened is this bed, throughout the winter, the nutrients kind of leached out of the bed, and there was a ton more nutrients in the bed right when I planted the plants. So I don't think in the fall I'm going to amend the beds. I'm going to wait until spring. I did that because I wanted to give myself in the spring a break, and I didn't want to have to worry about it. But I think the nutrient load is higher if you do it right before you plant. So that's my plan for next year, is once these beds are done for the year, I'll cover them up with landscape fabric, and then in the spring, I'll amend them with compost. And I saw, let's see if I can find it, right here. Here she is. Here's a female pumpkin plant, and I'm gonna follow this plant up so I can find there's another, that's a male flower. I like to make sure I'm pollinating with the same plant. Oh look, there's a honeybee. That is a female flower that she just crawled into. You can see how she is really in that flower and can probably do a better job than I can. I just spent time hand pollinating all the pumpkins I could, and then I found this this pumpkin in here. I believe this is a new variety to me that I've never grown before. It looks weird, like it didn't pollinate properly, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to look like that. And then here's another example of a pumpkin that didn't get pollinated versus one that did. So there's a good side-by-side. This one is green and growing, and this one is kind of yellow and shriveled. I decided I wanted to go ahead and detangle these pumpkin plants right now because I was having so much fun hand pollinating. I want to go ahead and get them laid out nicely so that I can hand pollinate as it arises. I just spent about 20 minutes detangling these pumpkin vines, and I think what I'm gonna do, I also hand pollinated all that I could hand pollinate. I think I'm gonna let some of these grow up this fence, and we'll just see what happens. I was not expecting this bed to explode like it did. I really think that that compost that I put and soil amendments that I put in this bed right before I planted really made a big difference. I can see about 15 honeybees. There probably are honeybees on these flowers right now. I did hand pollinate what I could, and we'll just see what happens. I am excited that we've got some pumpkins growing up this trellis. And so I know what I need to do today. I need to go change into some cooler clothes, and then we are gonna be right back out here. Well, let me show you the bees first. It's much cooler in the shade. And Josh did an update on the bees. Oh, and the dahlias that we started together and the petunias we started together are starting to bloom in here. We've got a pink one here, a white one here. The varieties in this landscape of dahlias, the same as the ones that are in the fenced area, these are called Bee's Choice. And then this is my petunia that we started together. It's called Garden Party Mix, and it is huge. And I'm just shocked by that. So I planted all the same variety up in the landscape so that I knew what variety it is. And it's Bee's Choice, and I see bees on it all the time. I definitely am a little bit warmer now after working with those pumpkins. So I have not been out here since getting home, but Josh has. My wildflower patches have kind of become a flop. They've kind of just turned into weeds. I haven't really watered it because I haven't had time. But I heard, because Josh was out here, and I know that he has been snacking on these blueberries, a ton of these are ready to harvest. So I'm gonna come out here today and go ahead and get the ripe blueberries. Let's see, that one looks like it could go another day or two. Most of these blueberries so far have just been eaten fresh. The raspberries have just been eaten fresh, and these silly little garden beds, we are gonna get something. I do have cosmos in here along with a bunch of weeds and some sunflowers that made it after getting munched on. Josh comes out here every day and he fills this bird bath with water so that the bees can have it. Because it's been so hot in the 90s, and it's actually about to cool down into the 80s, that the bees have been doing something that's called, I believe it's called bearding. It's super fascinating, where they actually don't hang out all in the hive. They come out of the hive and they stay on the outside of the hive to keep cool. And they actually collect water, and I don't know if they spit the water out, but they create this like air conditioner for their hive so that they don't overheat, because they don't want to get too hot, because the larvae, the baby bees, can't get too hot or they will die. But you will notice that it looks a little different since last time we were out here, because Josh put on the flow hive box. Now I think what he wants to do is, we don't own one, but he wants to buy another box, because these bees have grown so quickly, like that, not the bees themselves, but the hive has grown so quickly, that I think what he wants to do is put another third box in the middle here, so that they can have more room. I don't understand all of it because I'm not the beekeeper, but it has been super fascinating kind of just learning from overhearing what he's saying. The cool thing about this flow hive system is, oh, I don't see any in here. They have these openings so you can see. Last time I was in here, you could see a bunch of bees in there. There's more openings, so we'll open a couple other spots. Let's see if we can see them in. Whoop, there they are. You can see them working in there. Let's open the other hive and see if we can see them better in the other hive. There they are. There are bees in there. So far, our bees have been very docile and gentle. When it was in the high 90s, you could tell that they were buzzing and going around, but they have not been aggressive. So that's been really, really nice. They just are a great joy to have in our family. Here's my other flower bed that kind of petered out. I can actually see quite a few mullein plants that are starting. That's a medicinal plant. I didn't plant that, but it's enjoying that space. And there's also, what is that called? Is that lamb's ear? I should pull that before it goes to seed, because you can actually eat this, but I don't like the taste of it. And that becomes a noxious weed. I could probably give that to the chickens, but I've got stuff out in the garden that I'm going to give them that I know they're going to enjoy. So I've got a game plan. Harvest is the next thing on my agenda. And I think I'm going to harvest enough of these blueberries that I'm going to be able to turn them into a dessert for this dinner party that I'm having this weekend that is going to be garlic themed. And basically not just garlic themed, but garden harvest themed, because I'm going to try to use as much of the things out of the garden as I can. And I will take you guys along that entire journey. Fine, so if you want to see what the garlic harvest for 2024 is going to be, please consider subscribing if you're new. If you've been here before, thank you for being here and taking time out of your day to spend time with me in my garden. I cannot believe how this garden has exceeded my expectations. So thank you, friend, for being here. Thank you for being you. I will pop some more videos here. You can go enjoy between now and my next upload. I hope you're looking forward to what is to come, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.